Welcome. Thank you for joining us for another video. Today's video takes us to Bennington County, Vermont in the United States. There is a mysterious area surrounding the Glastonbury Mountains in this region known as the Bennington Triangle. Many strange things have occurred here in the last few centuries. Most notably, several people have mysteriously vanished with no explanation from the area. Today we will explore a bit of the history surrounding this area and these disappearances. Let's get into it. The history regarding the Bennington Triangle is steeped in tales of curses and the supernatural. The Native Americans that used to call the area home believed that an ancient curse had been placed on the surrounding forests and mountains in the area. They would not enter the area unless it was to bury their dead. They believed that terrible things would happen and that only those that had died could inhabit the land without serious consequences. There is one specific legend that speaks of rocks opening and swallowing people, only for them to never be seen again. The region is said to not have much wildlife, and that instead of the calming sounds of nature, you are confronted with silence. If any sounds are heard, they are of an eerie nature. Disembodied voices, laughter, and whistling are a few of the sounds that have been heard inexplicably in the forest. For those that are brave enough to enter and hike the mountains and forests in the Bennington Triangle, they will certainly come across one of the many stacks of rocks that have been intelligently built throughout the area. There is no explanation as to why these eerie monuments were built or by whom they were constructed. The most worrying aspect of the Bennington Triangle is most certainly all of the unexplained disappearances that have occurred in the region. The mountains and surrounding woods have claimed an estimated 30 to 40 lives without any explanation. Of the many frightening cases of people going missing, there are only a handful of instances where a body or any trace of the victims have ever been found. There are stories of Bigfoot-like monsters stalking the forest and the area. There is even a tale from the 19th century that states that some settlers were traveling by stagecoach near a large outcrop of trees. The story goes that part of the road had been washed away due to recent flooding along the Glastonbury Mountains. As the coach came to a stop, the passengers began hearing sounds and seeing what they thought to be large creatures watching them from the tree line. The driver of the coach said that he saw a large, non-human footprint in the mud after dismounting the stagecoach. It is at this point that the story takes a frightening and dangerous turn. Suddenly, with no warning, a large Bigfoot-like creature sprung from the wilderness and attacked the coach. The passengers claimed to hear blood-freezing howls from the monster before he finished his attack by flipping the coach on its side. Large unexplained creatures are not the only odd thing that is said to be happening in this creepy area of wilderness in Vermont. There have been multiple reports of unexplained lights and unidentified flying objects hovering in the skies above the triangle. However, one of the most spine-chilling tales of the region is about a man, not an extraterrestrial or Bigfoot, but of a flesh and blood human. The story of this man is profoundly disturbing. Many years ago, the man got drunk and attacked one of his co-workers. He ended up bludgeoning his friend to death. He was sent to an insane asylum, but one evening, he escaped and fled to the wilderness. After this, he made a few disturbing appearances. There are several accounts of the man harassing the local women for years after his mental break. Perhaps the scariest aspect of the tales and legends regarding the Bennington Triangle are the documented missing person cases that have occurred over the last 75 years. The first of these disappearances that we will investigate is the strange case of an experienced hunter by the name of Carl Herrick. In 1945, Carl went for a hunt in the forest, much like he had done many times before. This hunt would end much differently for Mr. Herrick than all the times before, though. He disappeared without a trace, and no sign of him was discovered for 3 days. This is where his story becomes frighteningly strange. When his body was discovered, it was surrounded by large bear-like footprints. You may ask, what is so odd about that? Hunter goes missing, and his body is found surrounded by bear tracks. Obviously, a bear killed him, right? Not exactly. When Carl's body was found, it had been crushed. Not from a falling tree or rock, but had been crushed by something squeezing him to death. It was so bad that one of his ribs was protruding through his lungs out of his body. To this day, there is no rational explanation for what happened to Carl Herrick. Another extremely experienced outdoorsman named Mitty Rivers went missing in the same year as Carl Herrick. On that weekend in 1945, Rivers was leading a small hiking group through an area known as Hell Hollow. He walked a very short distance ahead of the group only to never be seen again. Despite efforts to find Mitty Rivers, the only thing of his that was ever discovered was a lone spent bullet casing of the ammunition that Rivers was carrying with him on the trip. Although he was remarkably familiar with the area and spent countless hours in the area, he vanished, and his body was never found. Possibly the most famous missing persons case from the Bennington Triangle is that of Paula Weldon. Paula was an 18-year-old second-year student at Bennington University at the time of her disappearance. She decided one December day in 1946 that she wanted to take a hike. She hitchhiked her way to the wilderness and was confirmed to have made it there safely, as there were several witnesses who had saw her walking along a trail. The last time that she was seen, she was walking along a trail in front of 2 other hikers. Even though she was wearing a red jacket that would stand out easily amongst the backdrop of the region, she vanished without a trace. The 2 hikers who last saw her said that she rounded an outcrop of rocks just a few hundred feet in front of them. When they made it to the same outcrop, literally moments later, there was no sign of Paula Weldon or her red jacket. There was a massive search that was coordinated to try and find her. The search party included the FBI, aircraft, and over 1,000 volunteers. Although so many resources and people were put to work finding Paula, she was never found. One of the few instances where a body was actually recovered after going missing was that of Frida Langer. In October of 1950, Frida and her family decided to take a camping trip. Everything was going great for the group when Langer and her cousin decided that they wanted to go for a short hike. The 2 had only walked approximately a quarter of a mile when Frida slipped and fell into a creek. Being soaked from head to toe, she decided to run back to camp quickly and get some dry clothes and shoes, since they were such a short distance away from the camping area. Her cousin waited by the stream, where Frida had fallen for several moments before becoming impatient and going back to the camp to find out what was taking Frida so long. It should have taken her no longer than 10 to 15 minutes to make it back to her cousin. Oddly, Frida Langer vanished somewhere between her cousin and her family camping spot. She was never seen alive after leaving her cousin to grab a change of clothes. This case takes another strange turn when Frida had not been found for 7 months, despite a massive search effort that was put forth. She was, however, found in that 7th month in a location that had been thoroughly searched dozens of times. Unfortunately, Frida's body was too decomposed to find a cause of death. These are but a few of the disturbing cases of people who vanished while in the area known as the Bennington Triangle. Some people try to explain the mystery away by saying that a serial killer has been and was stalking the area, while many others are of the belief that something supernatural or paranormal is taking place. No matter your thoughts on the situation, there is no denying that with all of the strange occurrences and sightings, it is quite possible that something sinister is happening in this region of Vermont known as the Bennington Triangle. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's video. We hope that you enjoyed this glimpse at the odd going-ons at the Bennington Triangle. Please like, subscribe, share, and post a comment. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our content. Until the next one.